You're a punctual group. I appreciate that. So welcome everyone. My name is Vicki Preddy and I am a nurse educator with Vanda Pharmaceuticals, like Christopher said. And thanks for allowing me to join your meeting today. And definitely want to thank Doreen for the invitation. That's too bad I didn't get to meet her, but I will at some point. But thank you, Christopher, for hosting today. So I'm here to provide education and outreach related to non-24. It's a short name for non-24-hour sleep-wake disorder. What I wanted to ask before I start is, Christopher, do you normally like to have these meetings interactive during the presentation, or should maybe just wait until the end and we can ask questions at the end?
It's completely up to you. As I said, we ask people to stay on mute when they're not talking, just so we don't get the background noise. But if you're comfortable having it more interactive, certainly folks can unmute themselves and ask questions as we go along.
Okay. I'm comfortable with that, but I'll leave it up to you all individually. If, I might ask a question here or there. If you would like to answer it, then, please feel free. So we'll try to keep it interactive and see how that goes. But I have some information that'll just take about 10 minutes, and I have plenty of time to spend with you afterwards as well to answer your questions if you want to wait until the end. So what I always like to find out first from everyone is if you've ever heard of non-24. And you can chime in or raise your hand or whatever you want to do. Or shake your head no, I can see some of you. Okay, all right. So it sounds like it might be an unfamiliar topic. So if you have heard of it before, it never hurts to hear about it more than once. I think you always pick up something else every time you hear about a topic. So I think you'll get something out of it, even if you've heard about this subject. So I'll start by talking about the basics of non-24. The long name is non-24-hour sleep-wake disorder. We just call it non-24 for short. And it's the word non, N-O-N, and the number 24. Non-24 is a disorder that occurs when the sleep-wake cycle in our body is out of sync with a 24-hour day-night cycle that we normally like to live by. Most people prefer to run their lives using that 24-hour schedule. When the sleep-wake cycle is out of sync, it results in difficulties for people when they try to sleep at night and during the daytime when they normally want to be awake. I would guess that most of you prefer to sleep at night when it's dark, and then most of you prefer to stay awake during the day when we have sunlight. Like I said, that's just kind of how we run our lives, and humans have really evolved into preferring that schedule. Well, non-24 mostly happens in people who are totally blind, and today you'll learn why that is. And people with low vision and those who are sighted can be affected also. So you'll hear me say that. It doesn't matter whether a person is born blind or becomes blind later in life. It can happen at any time, and it can affect both men and women. There are 3 common symptoms associated with non-24. If you've ever heard of it before, do you want to name 1 or 2 of them? Well, the 3 main symptoms are difficulty falling asleep at night, difficulty staying asleep at night, and then difficulty staying awake during the day. Angie put something in the chat there. Towards the end of my presentation, I'll give you examples of how people's lives can be impacted by those symptoms. And if you have your own personal story that you want to talk about, if it's okay with Christopher, I'm happy to listen to that. I do enjoy hearing what people are experiencing to see if there's a way that I can help. So not all people who are totally blind will have non-24. I just want to make sure that that's clear. But a large percentage of people who are totally blind have it and may not know it. Does anyone know what that percentage is? If you've ever heard it, you probably don't forget it. But that percentage is 70%, so it's pretty high. Again, that's people who have it but don't even know it. Once again, non-24 is a disorder that occurs when the sleep-wake cycle in our body is out of sync with a 24-hour day-night cycle. And that results in those symptoms that I just mentioned. So now let's take a look at what actually causes non-24. What causes that sleep-wake cycle to go out of sync? Well, the root of the problem with non-24 actually lies in something called our circadian rhythm system. The circadian system is made up of two things. It's a master body clock and circadian rhythms. So let's talk about those. Has anyone ever heard of the master body clock, maybe even in a different context? And do you know where it is? Our master clock is really just a group of nerves located right in the central portion of our brain. It's located in an area of the brain called the hypothalamus. So that's always makes you sound kind of smart when you know that. But its job is to control different activities that occur in our bodies at a cellular level. And these activities are known as circadian rhythms. Well, one of those circadian rhythms regulates our sleep-wake cycle. So it prepares us to sleep at night and stay awake during the day. Our circadian rhythm naturally operates at a pace that's a little bit slower than 24 hours. So it operates in a non-24-hour period of time. And that's how we actually came up with the name of the disorder. So compared to a 24-hour day, the circadian sleep-wake rhythm is behind schedule. So what does that mean to us? Well, it means that everyone has an internal system that operates out of sync with a 24-hour day. And if our sleep-wake cycle operates at a different pace than the 24-hour day, the times to sleep and wake will occur at times that are abnormal. And that's what can lead to one or more of those common symptoms. So the next question is, what does it have to do with being totally blind? Well, what we discovered with research is that sighted people have a master clock that resets on a daily basis so that it aligns with a 24-hour day. And that reset occurs when either natural or artificial light is absorbed by special cells in the retina. Those cells will then send a signal to the master clock, notifying it to reset its timing system so that it aligns with a 24-hour day. And since the master clock controls that sleep-wake cycle, that cycle will stay aligned with a 24-hour day when the clock resets. What we also learned in research is that light is the strongest and the most effective source for resetting that clock. So with total blindness, there's a lack of light perception. So those specialized cells that I spoke of, the ones that are located in the retina, they're not absorbing light, and then they're not sending that reset signal to the master clock. And in that case, that clock is just going to continue running slow. It's going to use its own timing system that is slow, and it's out of sync with a 24-hour day. If the master clock is not reset every day, that sleep-wake cycle constantly moves forward. It will drift and shift forward, and then it will result in sleep and wake times that get later and later on a daily basis. In fact, many people that I've spoken to have said that they will reach a point where they have an uncontrollable urge to sleep during the day and an uncontrollable urge to stay awake at night. I'm going to just stop here for a minute. Are there any questions about why non-24 can happen to people who are totally blind? You can save your questions for the end if you like, but I just want to see if there's anything you need me to clarify. I mentioned that there are the common symptoms associated with non-24, but what's really important to consider is the impact that those symptoms have on someone's life. If you're awake all night, and all of us have experienced that at one time or another, where we just have a really bad night's sleep, where we're up and down all night, or we just don't sleep at all. And that happens without this non-24, happens for other reasons. But if you're awake all night, chances are the next day you're going to feel groggy, grumpy, not well rested, you just don't feel good. You don't feel right. Well, people with non-24 will report all of those same things. They'll have the same feelings, but they report things that go beyond that. They say they have like this brain fog where they have difficulty focusing or difficulty concentrating just on routine tasks. They feel disconnected. And that means like they just don't feel like they're relating to things around them or in their environment. They feel a sense of disorientation. They're not quite sure where they are. They're not quite sure where they want to go. They will experience dizziness. And all of those things can occur at varying degree. So some people might have it worse than others. But, the question is, if you have all that going on, how will you function if you're in school, or you're trying to work on a project, or you're at work, or trying to get ready for work? And if you've been awake all night, how would you be able to get going at 8 o'clock in the morning to get to work by 10 or whatever it is? I mean, that's just an example. How would you function? So you want to be able to address these problems if you're having them, because this can lead to academic and career barriers. It can lead to problems with your families. A lot of people don't understand non-24, so they may think that you're just not participating because you don't feel like it. But the truth is, you really can't, because you don't have any control over what's going on in your body, because remember, it's occurring at a cellular level. I have a story, just a quick story. I met this guy last week. Didn't meet him in person. I talked to him on the phone, and he's been blind for a couple of years. But like I said, sleep problems can start to occur at any time. So he didn't have any problems during the time that, over those first couple of years, during the time that he became blind. But after a while, he started to experience these things that I've been talking about. And at the time I spoke to him, he had not had any sleep for 2 days. He'd been up for 48 hours with little naps here and there, like 45 minutes, 20 minutes. And he said, I knew I wasn't sleeping because I looked at the clock, and or he could tell what time it was with someone that was in his home that was he was talking to about these problems. So he said that he was trying to enroll in guide dog school, and he had 92 tutorials to finish, and he had orientation and mobility classes that he needed to finish. But all three of those things were on hold because he was not able to sleep and not able to focus or function or concentrate on doing anything because of the problems he was having with his sleep. So I connected him with some people that he could talk to and review his own personal situation with to see what more we could do for him. So the symptoms of that I talked about will come and go in cycles, and there will be periods of good sleep followed by periods of poor sleep. And people with non-24 will say they have these periods of time where they go, I feel pretty good. My sleep patterns are like everyone else, but the symptoms they have always return because non-24 doesn't go away. It's a chronic disorder that keeps coming back because of that shifting cycle and shifting sleep-wake schedule. So in summary, our circadian system includes a master clock and a sleep-wake rhythm that will naturally run out of sync with a 24-hour day. For sighted people, environmental light cues will signal the system to reset every day so that it aligns with a 24-hour day. For people who are unable to perceive light, that circadian system will remain out of sync with a 24-hour day, and it will create periods of time when they may be awake at night and want to sleep during the day, and then lead to those feelings that I described. So that's really an overview of non-24. I hope that I've given you enough information to at least recognize the symptoms of it. In that case, you may be able to identify problems of your own or problems that someone else you know may be having. I'm not certified to talk about treatment, but I can refer you to Vanda's health educator or one of their health educators if you feel like you're struggling with this and you would like more information about the disorder itself or about treatment. And I'll stop right there to see if anyone wants to ask a question or get some clarification about anything that you've heard today.
And again, if you have any questions and you're on mute, if you just do *6, that'll unmute you if you're on the phone.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Joan.
Sure. Now, what exactly does the non-24, if you start taking the pills, do for you? How does being blind, you can't see day or night, you just see black, but within my case, I see I have 24 hours of glare, and I don't sleep, and then I have 24 hours of dark. Now, that's fine, and it went like that for a long time, but now I'm sleeping I noticed that I'm sleeping like 2.5 hours. I'm up for 5. I get an hour sleep, and it changes. Now I'm seeing it changes whether I'm in the dark or I'm in the glare. Okay. Now, I don't know if that has anything to do with the non-24, but what do you think about that?
What's your name? Who am I speaking with?
Joan Samini.
Joan. Okay, Joan. Well, thank you for your question. And I'm sorry you're struggling with that because from what I hear you say, you may be experiencing symptoms of non-24. That broken sleep that you described, where you sleep for a couple of hours and then you're up for a long stretch of time, is common in non-24. What I would encourage you to do is to speak one-on-one with one of our health educators to get more information about the disorder, to tell her or him your story so that they have more details surrounding your personal situation, and then talk to them about the treatments. There is a treatment. It doesn't have anything to do with light. It's a what we would call a medical intervention versus that light intervention. So if you're interested in that, and Christopher, you can either give me your phone number on the call or give it to Christopher and he can send it over to me. But that's what I recommend.
I have called and asked a number of times. I've spoken with a number of people, but they tell me that this 24 hours of dark and 24 hours of light have nothing to do with it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I like I said, I've called a number of times, but I didn't. All the things that you're speaking of, mm-hmm. like like not paying attention when my sister-in-law is talking sometimes, and mm-hmm. And I'll say, "What did you say?" Because I'm not there with them,
Right. Right.
And it sounds like I have some of it, but when the other part of this light and dark, no, they say no. That's not it. So has been my experience with it.
Do you want me to call you later, Joan? And I'd like to hear more of your story. Would you mind if?
Sure. No, I would appreciate it.
Okay.
Vicki, I can email you Joan's phone number.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Sure, I'll call you later today if that's all right.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yes, please do. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Was there anybody else that had any questions, comments, wanted to share their experiences? Sandra, I think I see your hand. If you just unmute yourself, we'll be able to hear you.
Got it.
There you go.
Just one question.
Sure.
In the beginning, you mentioned 70% of the people suffer from this.
Mm-hmm.
That's 70% from everyone, not just people with sighted issues, or is it everyone?
No, it's 70% of people who are totally blind.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood that.
Yeah.
All right.
And can I just comment? Would like to add something to what Sandra said. And the reason a lot of people suffer from it and don't know it is that they think that it's normal, that it's just part of being blind, and that it's not a disorder, that it just comes with the territory. And that's really not true. It could happen, but you don't have to suffer from it. You can get help. So that's why why we say so many people have it and don't know it. The other thing is they may have it, they may seek help from their physician, but they get diagnosed with something else, because non-24 is a rare disorder and it mimics other sleep problems like insomnia or sleep apnea is another one. The other thing with non-24 is that people can fall asleep suddenly because they're so tired. So often a doctor will think that that is a form of narcolepsy. Have you ever heard of that disorder where people just suddenly fall asleep? But that can happen in non-24 for different reason, not because of narcolepsy, but because of that circadian rhythm misalignment. So.
I have, this is Joan. I have no problem falling asleep. I mean, I usually put the book on, the talking book, and set it for a half hour, and I never get to the half hour. I fall asleep quickly, but that doesn't, I don't stay asleep. You know, I might have 2.5 hours, 4 or 5 hours, and then I'm wide awake.
Yeah.
And it, like you said, the next day you wanna, you know, around 2 o'clock, it's like somebody says to me, "All right, it's nighttime now, and I wanna take a nap."
Right.
You know,
well,
and it's aggravating.
I can imagine. I'm kind of surprised that, I mean, the things you're saying sound very common as non-24. So we'll review it, Joan, and we'll see what's going on.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
it was very good workshop. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
And Carrie, I see your hand up, so go ahead.
Yes. What I struggle with is, especially when my days are rather not structured, I go back to this like 12-hour cycle, if you will. So, you know, I will be in bed basically for like 12 hours, whatever, and then I'll be fine. Whereas notice if I do have like this routine where I'm up like later hours and stuff, I notice that it's not, I'm not as well alert if I do this like 12-hour kind of cycle.
So, Carrie, you went on mute. Was there something else? Did you want to add to that?
No, that's basically my explanation of what I experienced.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's a long sleep period. Do you cope well with that?
Oh, I don't sleep all the time, off and on. Oh, that's the point. Not constant 12 hours, but the time I actually get up, start to do stuff generally. Like, well.
Okay. Well, Carrie, if you would like to speak with me one-on-one, just send your phone number over to Chris and he can send it to me. And if you want to talk to me further, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thank you for your information too.
Does anybody else have any questions, comments?
Yes. Can I ask you about the vitamin melatonin? Do you know anything about that? It's supposed to help with your sleep. Can you tell me what does melatonin do? How does that work for your sleep? I take it, it helps me some, but I get off of it. I try not to take it only when I need it, but they say that your melatonin is your lack of it, or vitamin in your brain. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for that question, Joan. So melatonin is a hormone actually, and that and cortisol are part of our sleep-wake cycle. So before we go to sleep, our body naturally releases melatonin. That's a hormone that helps us fall asleep. And then to wake up, our body will release cortisol, and that will help us wake up. And with non-24, both of those get released at abnormal times because of that sleep-wake cycle being off, because of that master clock being out of sync with a 24-hour day. So when you mentioned that around 2 o'clock, sometimes you just kind of have to go to bed.
Yeah.
I would guess that probably that's when you're getting a rise in your melatonin levels, and your body is saying, your sleep-wake cycle's telling you that it's time to go to bed, and your melatonin wants to help you do that, wants to help you fall asleep. So it's being released at the wrong or abnormal times. You want it to be released at night, you know, when you normally want to sleep. But
Right.
without that reset, it's just going to get released according to that master clock. So does that help answer that piece of it? There was one other thing I wanted to say about
Yes, that helps.
Okay.
Least.
Yeah, because it's a natural hormone, but people will try melatonin supplements over the counter. A lot of doctors will recommend that. Doesn't need a prescription, but what they'll tell me is that, kind of like a lot of other things that we take, it'll work for a little while and then it stops working because your body gets used to it. So,
right.
that's what happens with melatonin. Some people like it; it's very effective for them, but some people don't. So that's what I know about melatonin.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. So if nobody else has any questions, we'll stop the workshop here. I will be emailing everybody a link to the video of today's presentation if you want to go back and re-listen to it, if there's information that you missed. And I will also include Vicki's contact information in that email. So if you have further questions, you can reach out to her directly, or you can email me and I will pass your information along to her, whichever is easier for you. And Vicki also posted her phone in the chat. So I'm going to stop.